Have you ever opened your calendar and immediately felt just panic? Nothing's wrong. It's just full with back to back calls, no white space, or time for any sort of creativity, which is just a creative's worst nightmare. And somewhere in between your third client email of the morning and the forgotten invoice that you forgot to send weeks ago, you feel burnt out by your own business. I have been there more times than I can count. And what's wild is that I built my business specifically so I could have more freedom. That was literally the whole point, to work for myself, set my own hours, be present for my kids. And for a long time, I had a business, but not the total freedom that I wanted. I had the responsibility of running something, but none of the spaciousness that I thought that I could bring. And I'm sure you're listening to this and you're like, wait, okay, totally relate. So today I want to talk about something that genuinely changed the way that I work and live. And I do bring it into every single part of my life, not just business. The idea that structure equals freedom. And I know that that sounds so counterintuitive because most of us became entrepreneurs so we wouldn't have to live by someone else's rules. And the last thing we want is to build our own cage, basically. But stay with me because I promise it doesn't work the way that you think it does. The weeks I have felt the most free, where I'm wrapped up by 3 p.m. with no guilt, inbox zero, didn't have to work on Fridays, or felt attached to my emails 24/7 were not the weeks that I winged it. Those were the weeks where everything had a place, my calendar had intention, my clients knew exactly what to expect, invoices were sent, paid, and my brain wasn't holding open 17 tabs. And the structure, what I realized with that time is that the structure didn't take away from my freedom, it created it. So, in this episode, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to take control of your week. We're talking about your calendar, clients, invoices, and just overall mental bandwidth, the actual unsexy stuff that nobody loves to talk about because it's not as fun as like brand strategy or business development or all of those things, but it is absolutely the foundation that everything else gets built on. Okay, let's get into it. Welcome to Behind the Design, the podcast for ambitious women building a business and life they're truly obsessed with. I'm your host, Olivia Austin, mom of two, brand strategist, business mentor, and life enthusiast. Since 2017, I've built multiple businesses, supported hundreds of brands, and overcome burnout more times than I can count. What I've learned is that strategy and hustle will only take you so far. It's your habits, mindset, and vision that actually get you to your next level. Each week, I'll take you behind the curated websites and highlight reels to share the truth about what it takes to thrive in business and life. From high-performance habits and mindset to navigating motherhood with more ease to wellness and business strategies, all through a feminine lens, Behind the Design helps you create a life that feels as good on the inside as it looks on the outside. I'm so happy you're here. Let's dive in. Okay, I'm very excited to talk about this episode today because this has been something that has changed. This is what I think a lot of my coaching clients are attracted to me about because we talk a lot about productivity and high performance and how to get more done in the limited amount of time that you have. Especially as a mom, it can feel extremely overwhelming. You have part-time childcare, you're trying to do all the different things, be healthy, do whatever. And some days it does feel like you're just running around like a chicken with your head cut off, or that you're just chipping away and that you're just doing versus living and being and excelling in all of the different areas. And it really does come down to structure. Now, for me, I really dislike looking at my calendar and having all of these things that I have to do that week or that day. I need a lot of white space. I need a lot of time for creativity and deep projects and all of those different things. And when you can, and you might also need that as well. So when you take control of your calendar and just your life and create that structure, you're allowing yourself more freedom because you have systems and processes in place for all of these different things that you love. When I say that everything that I do has a system, down to groceries, my husband and I have a shared notes app for what we need for groceries so that we're not we don't have to oh, I'm going to the grocery store, call me, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, we have a shared notes. We add everything in there so whoever goes to the grocery store can get what we actually need. And that just creates so much more freedom, and it takes the mental load off of different things. So there's so many different ways that you can go about this. But if you're feeling overwhelmed, like there's not enough hours in the day, or that you're constantly just like doing all of the things, I think that this episode is really going to help you. It's going to be a very strategic, tactical thing to just get stuff done. Okay, so we're going to go through a few different areas. So the first one is your calendar. The second one is client management. And the third one is invoicing and just all things money. But again, this can also, go to your life in different areas. But today we're mostly going to talk about work specifically. And I think if you have very limited time, you're working part-time. And I actually have a free download. I'm just going to mention this really fast before I forget that will go along with this episode. So make sure you grab it. The link is in the show notes. Basically just going through every single thing that matters to you, that matters to your life, your business, and helps you kind of dissect and create that structure and calendar that you're looking for. So make sure you download that. The link will be in the show notes. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is your calendar. This for me was like the biggest game changer, which was basically just taking control of your calendar and saying yes or no to random things. The very first thing I did was specific call days. So I only take calls on specific days, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Every other day is completely open. So if I have a client that says, hey, can you hop on a call at 1 p.m. on Wednesday? The answer is no. Obviously, there are going to be times where I'm open and I'm flexible. If like that time absolutely does not work for a client, then that's fine. But that's the exception and not the rule. And the reason for that is flip-flopping back and forth. There's some sort of science behind it. Don't quote me. I don't know where I heard it from. But every time you switch tasks, you lose 5 minutes to refocus. So if you are hopping on a call and then doing client work and then you're checking Instagram and then you're answering emails, that right there is a half hour of your time just to refocus. So you want to like have your days as structured as possible. And for me, like getting on and off calls was really stressful. So I have just days for calls, which is Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I have a massive amount of time that clients can book. They can book those calls, so it's not, it's open and convenient for them as well. So that's the first thing I would highly, highly, highly recommend doing. And another thing that I do on those days to take it even a step further is that I know that I like to have the morning for very deep work. So I don't take any call until 12 p.m. So I have 12 to like 4 or 5 p.m., I don't even remember, open for clients to book calls, whether that's a discovery call, a sales call, one-to-one coaching call, whatever it is. It's only on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So highly, highly recommend that. If you've been a long-time listener of this podcast, I know that I've mentioned this before, and if you haven't done it yet, like you need to go do it. So another thing that I do or what I recommend is doing your weekly architecture first. So before you book anything, decide what a non-negotiable week looks like for you. So whether it's deep work, admin, calls, marketing, white space, like I like to go to yoga at 9 a.m. on Wednesday. I don't like to work past 12 p.m. on Fridays. Like, what does your non-negotiable week look like? And put that in first. And then you're going to theme your days or your half days from there. So for example, Monday is like deep work and no calls. Wednesdays are client calls. Friday is just admin for 2 hours. Thursdays, I like to do marketing, like whatever it is, just theme your days out so that you know what you're doing. And then you have your client work, your client calls, all of those different things to fit into your own themes. Because if you're constantly reacting to emails, to other people's call like times, to all of that, you're just on other people's agendas versus having your own. And you want to, put those boundaries in place before you do anything. And this is one thing, like clients don't know, right? Like no one can read your mind unless you tell them. So like if you don't have communication guidelines set up or you don't have the call communication, like of course they're going to just suggest a time that would work for them because that's all they know. You haven't communicated your boundaries or what works for you. So knowing your calendar first and then having everything else build in there and fill in there, that's going to make such a big difference. Real quick, if you're someone who's been listening to this and thinking, okay, but how do I actually make this work around my life? I made something for you. It's a free workbook called 6 Figures, Part-Time Hours, The Ambitious Founder's Guide to Building Without Burnout. For the last 3 years, I've worked 3 days a week running 2 businesses that make multiple 6 figures per year separately, and this work is the exact framework that makes this possible. You'll get hyper clear on what's holding you back, where to focus, and what your exact next steps are to remove overwhelm and start to thrive in business and life. It's completely free. Check out the link in the show notes to download it now. Okay, back to the episode. Another thing to do is like time block in categories. So like client work that can protect like 3 hours, say. And that's better than a to-do list because that doesn't really like protect anything. So it's like Wednesdays we have like, an hour long block right in the morning. Then you decide what you're going to do within that client work block, if that makes sense. Another thing is saying no by default to open availability. So for example, you have Wednesdays completely open and a client is like, oh, I want to be able to do that. You have to say no. Like just because it's available doesn't mean that you need to fill it. So don't let a client or anyone else book into your creative or your personal time. You want to be able to use that booking tool or use your calendar link, and that's all that they can use. So like this is one example, like one thing that I highly recommend doing is like only using one way for people to book with you. So for example, like your one calendar link, and in there you have your call times booked or your call calendar booked, and they can only use that link. So versus someone being an email and being like, oh, like, does this time work for you? Does this time work for you? Or someone in your DMs, like asking all these questions. It's like, no, use this link. This has all of my availability. This is how you can schedule a time to work with me or chat with me or whatever. And it's just right there. There's no like negotiating, going back and forth and all of that. So you want to really say no by default to like any sort of open availability. Like that's still your time and just as important as, doing stuff for your clients. Another thing is the having some sort of like Sunday reset. So at the end of every week, like or I guess you could be like the beginning of the week, Sunday, is you have some sort of like weekly review about what's coming, what needs to be moving forward, like what needs to get dropped, like what's not realistic. And this is a habit that will make everything stick. Like at the end of the day on Sunday, just getting yourself prepped and ready for the week will make the biggest difference. Like what, kids need to do, like what sports you have coming up, all of those different things, just like being prepped and ready for the week is going to make it so easy for you to expand and like get everything done that you want to. Okay, so the second thing, not just your calendar, is client management and having these boundaries in place. I was literally just Voxering with a client this morning just about client communication and having some sort of client management and systems in place. So the most important thing is onboarding that does the heavy lifting. So onboarding is the most important part to set the boundaries and having a clear welcome process that has your questionnaires, your timeline, like communication expectations, like basically getting ahead of any sort of problems right in the beginning. So having like a very extensive onboarding really, really helps, especially for, creative projects. So if you're a VA or an OBM or a brand and website designer listening to this or any sort of service-based business owner, the onboarding is really like the very first step or entry point for your client to go into your processes versus you going into theirs. Another thing that we always communicate is having what communication windows are open. So like setting clear response hours. Like I do not answer emails all day long. I don't encourage anyone to do that. I have certain times a day that I check my email. I actually used to have someone that checked my email for me. Um, and communicating this during your onboarding or whatever. And that also goes for like having specific calls like already planned. So in our brand and website design process, we have like calls already planned out for clients. So we say like we have your kickoff call and then we have your website strategy call. We'll have one more call and then we have your wrap up call. And this actually helps a lot having like pre-planned calls so that clients aren't like, "Hey, can we hop on a call to like chat about this or can we do this?" Like we have our calls already set up and clearly communicate to the client. So 9 times out of 10, they're coming to the call with like a list of questions, things that they, just like wanted to share, all of that versus getting 5,000 emails and wanting to hop on a call once a week. So having that communication like set up and boundaries and what you have and expectations is like how you're going to set yourself up for success. Also, not so I guess this goes into the next thing. It's just like one hub for everything. So like where all communication, files, feedback, like it all lives in one place. We use ClickUp for literally everything. So like we do all client communication, all client docs, like literally everything is in ClickUp, and that is just what is best for our team. Um, but this also makes it easy for the client to know where and when to communicate. So when you don't tell them what to do, they're going to send you DMs on Instagram. They're going to ask for your phone number. They're going to email you, but like you have to be the one to tell them where to go. So just being very open and honest. Like I'm working with a coaching client right now who's like, removing WhatsApp from communication because it's not scalable. And that's another thing to think about with all of this is like, how is it scalable? If you were to 10x your business right now, would clients having your phone number actually like, is that sustainable? I would have to think not. Okay, and the last one is offboarding. Like this is also a system I hear so often. Like, how do you get clients to not keep coming back and like asking you questions and like asking you to make small tweaks, even if it's been, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, whatever. Offboarding is a system that has to be, eliminated. And honestly, you could be like leaving money on the table by not having a defined wrap up process. So sending final deliverables, sending the final feedback request, like this is the last thing. Like you cannot send us anything else. Here's our hourly rate kind of thing. This closes the loop super clean and then like opens the door for other possibilities. So like I would say like 50% of our clients do an offboarding call. We always offer it, but we'll send an offboarding email. And we have this set up actually in Dubsado. So when a client, like we have to check like project has completed and then we have multiple emails that will go out over a certain amount of time. So we have the one like final offboarding email that's like, here's all of your final files. The last time for you to make any sort of like submit any requests is by, XYZ date. Make sure you download everything. We don't offer it. And then attached is more information on ways to continue working with us. And we have all of our different capabilities. We have different like ongoing monthly retainer requirements, or like tiers that we can offer to clients. We have all of these different things that we can do for them. And that usually leads to and we usually will say like, we can hop on a wrap up call. And if that leads to a wrap up call, I would say a majority of them end up booking for some sort of like other service. So having the offboarding is really great. And this can be as simple as like some simple like email that you have canned in Dubsado or Honeybook or whatever you're using that just gets sent automatically to every single client. So that's client management, and having some sort of systems and processes in place is very important. And I know I talk about that all the time, and I have like more specific podcast episodes and trainings like just on systems and processes, but it wouldn't be right to not talk about that to be in control of your week. And again, like it might take you a while to set these up, or it might not. It might be small little tweaks like boundaries and how, like telling clients how to communicate, like all of those different things that will make the biggest difference. Okay, and then the third thing is invoicing and money. I am always so surprised when I hear people talking about their invoicing, but one thing is always like having invoices sent on a specific date. So we have invoices sent on the first of every month and they're automatically paid. So whether the client, like let's say the client onboards on the 15th of the month, their first two invoices are going to be like close together, but then from after that, they're invoiced always on the first of the month. And what was happening is I was doing invoices at the end of the month. I don't know why I was doing them first I was doing them like all like whatever day of the month. And then I wouldn't, like more lenient payment cycles and all of that. So I would have to pay my team and I just felt like I was always catching up sort of. So automating it when it gets sent and setting it up as recurring, again, you could do that in Dubsado, and then just letting the client know like how the invoicing works. Always requiring a deposit. Especially I've noticed like with some of my coaching clients who own like social media marketing agencies or doing any sort of like social content or anything like that, definitely doing some sort of like setup fee. So if you have to do any sort of setup with your client, whether that's like I guess like a VA or an OBM or like something that requires you to like, set up, get emails, like log into all those things, there should be some sort of setup fee, even if it's like very minimum. So always requiring a deposit and or a setup fee. And then also having auto reminders for unpaid invoices. So I guess all this to say, like invoicing and admin can really, really add up, especially if you have a lot of clients. Like for me, it was taking up like 5 to 10 hours a month for me to like catch up with invoices and like making sure that like everyone is getting paid. When I took like 1 hour to update everything in Dubsado, send an email out to existing clients, get new clients on this new invoicing system, like I was just getting paid automatically. I would just wake up on the first of every month and all of the invoices would be paid. And then also just doing like the auto reminders for any unpaid invoices. Highly recommend though doing like the auto pay. So basically the first time they set it up, they have to check like I agree to being auto charged every month. And then after that, you're just getting automatically paid every single time. And then also too, just like having one money day per week or month. So having a recurring time to review payments, to send invoices, to reconcile, see where money's coming in and money's coming out. Just place it on your calendar and getting used to that and seeing where that is. Because again, like you need to know where your money is coming from, especially as you're growing and scaling and you're making a lot of money. That doesn't mean that a lot of money should be going out. And I learned that the hard way. Also, just making sure, I'm sure you listening to this, you have this, but just separating your business finances. So just making sure that you have a dedicated business account so that your money admin is not like 5,000 times harder and you don't have to cycle through all of this stuff. And then just making sure that your pricing is anchored to your calendar and what you want to be doing. So if you don't know your hourly effective rate, you can't really price for freedom. You need to work backwards from the income that you want and then the hours that you're willing to work, and that's your hourly rate. And I know I've talked about this so much, is like knowing your pricing and knowing how much to charge in order to meet your goals. So all of this just really protects your mental bandwidth. Decision fatigue is real, especially in moms who are running companies. The more small decisions that you have to make, the fewer good decisions that you can make. And having systems and processes completely eliminate that decision making, because it is like one thing I've noticed from studying a lot of entrepreneurs and being around successful entrepreneurs is like they have systems for literally everything, from like they have an outfit that they like to wear. So they buy the same jeans in 5 different colors. They buy the same top in 5 different colors and they cycle through that. I mean, like Steve Jobs, like perfect example, but like anything that you don't have to like make that decision and or eliminate any decisions for yourself, like that's going to just set you up for success. Batching anything, like batching your admin, batching your um like house things, like batching anything, like that's going to set you up for success. Um Another thing that I really enjoy doing is like a brain dump habit where I get everything out of my head and into like, some sort of system. That I do on Sundays a lot, like how I was talking about like a Sunday reset. I would just brain dump everything and then figure out where it needs to be automated, delegated, like shared, like whatever, and like sent off to whoever. Another thing that can really protect your um, mental health and just mental bandwidth in general is knowing your peak hours and guard them like with your life. Like what are the hours that you like think the best, that you create the best, that you are energetically like able to offer for your clients, for whoever. Like what are they, and understand them, and don't try to like fit them into someone else's. Like for me, I like the I love human design and I know what my human design is. I also know like my Enneagram and like all of those different things. And then on top of that, like just understanding how you work best and kind of structuring your calendar around that, or just your days or whatever that looks like for you. And then just holding true to your boundaries. Like this again goes to what I talk about a lot, which is like when you keep your promises to yourself, you build that confidence, and you don't want to get to a point where you're resentful of your clients, you're resentful of your work, like, and how you're going to get that is by really sticking true to your boundaries, because every yes to something that isn't aligned is basically a no to your most important work. Like everything is a choice no matter what. So, listening to this episode, I'm hoping that you heard at least one thing that you can really work on. And again, like I've said, the small things compound over time. So it could be one small thing where you change the days that you have calls. Maybe you implement an offboarding sequence in whatever system that you're using. Maybe you implement a new way for clients to communicate, whatever that looks like for you. Those small things are going to compound over time, and you're going to have those systems and processes in all different areas of your life, which will just, again, create more freedom for you. So I hope you really enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next week.